Recently, I watched the trailer for Avengers Doomsday and I felt nothing. It was kind of a surreal experience because I could perceive how Disney wanted me to feel, and I'm kind of the target audience, so I knew how I should feel, but the trailer made me realize that I'm utterly unimpressed. Which isn't to say I won't watch it, I'll still give it a chance. I am, after all, a curious little alien and open to being proven wrong. But in the interim, I want to understand why this apathy has overtaken me, and maybe you. So let's get into it. Now, to understand Doomsday, we're gonna have to do our homework. Let's go back to the basics. The 3-act structure is the basic structure for most stories, and will be the basis for how we're analyzing what Doomsday means. Bear with me. Act 1 is the setup. This is where we get our exposition, the front-loading of world building, introduction of characters, the foundation that we're going to build a story off of. At the end of this act, or the beginning of Act 2, is usually where the villain of the story, who acts as the driver of the plot, is introduced. In superhero media especially, the protagonists tend to be passive characters that react to the plot, whereas the antagonists are active characters that drive the plot forward. Act 2 is the rising action. This is where the stakes start to climb. Our protagonists get a better handle on their abilities, our antagonist gains power, and the path to their confrontation is set. Now, our hero and villain don't have to interact in order to build a relationship. Sometimes the relationship can be built through proxies. Like, Palpatine isn't kicking it with Luke in New Hope or Empire, but his best boy Vader is. And since we see that Luke has a little, trouble fighting Vader, in the back of our heads we think, okay, but Vader has a boss baby who's even stronger than him. So how's Luke gonna beat Sheev? Yes, Palpatine's first name is Sheev, don't make fun of him. Anyway, Act 2 takes Act 1 and uses what was built to feed into hype and action, which in turn feeds into... Act 3 is the climax. Here is where everything comes together for the high point of the story. Very little world building, very little character introductions, we're going in guns blazing to bring the whole thing to its peak. We don't need to be told why Gobby Green Green wants to kiss Spider-Man, he's told us. We don't wonder if Gwen is immune to fall damage, cause she's already told us she isn't in Act 1. The strength of these climaxes is directly proportional to how well the previous 2 acts have set them up, in addition to how well the climax pays off on previous setups. Think of it like cooking a fancy dinner. If I give you some ketchup and a dead gecko, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not gonna make anything worth putting into my pretty mouth. But if I hit you with that filet mignon and you know what to do with it...
Yeah, boy.
Now, emphasis is on knowing what to do with it. Because you don't hit 100% of layups, even though Wikipedia says they're easy. There have been series where the climax is foiled, and I'd say a lot of the time it's due to deviating from where the story has been going. As you've seen throughout this video, the closest analog to Doomsday is Infinity War, and I'm sure you understand how the Infinity Saga followed the 3-act structure pretty well. Although I will say before your little fingies can type it out that the Infinity Saga was not perfectly planned or perfectly executed. It does have its hiccups. Like off the top of my head, I think Mr. Stonk's busting all of his suits wide open in Iron Man 3, then showing up with the Iron Fleet in How Old is Ultron is questionable at best. But hiccups aside, from a retroactive bird's eye view, we can see a pretty clear through line that leads to Thanos putting it on our gang in Infinity War. Now, how does the multiverse saga compare, and how does it approach storytelling? Well... So we start with an interquel starring a dead character that is used as a backdoor pilot for Yelena. Great, fine. Whatever. It's Act 1, we need exposition. Then Shang-Chi, banger, except for that dragon.
What the hell is even that?
Eternals, okay, another pilot. No Way Home, Doc Strange, Thor the Goat Saga,
Giant goats!
and Black Panther all serve the alternative expository function of moving chess pieces instead of introducing new characters. Meaning we get broke, lonely, no best friend having, no girlfriend having, no aunt having.
Poor Peter Parker.
Doctor Strange becomes Percy Jackson's brother.
What is
and goes into a portal with Charlize Theron. And Thor gets a kid, which feels kinda like an exit, but apparently isn't. Black Panther was obviously affected by the passing of another GOAT, so slides M'Baku and Shuri into a co-leadership role. Not bad for Phase 1, exposition, as expected. Phase 2, Ant-Man 3 introduces the big bad of the saga right off the bat, which fits exactly into the 3-act structure we discussed before. You can kinda see the bones of an overarching story start to form right here. But, unfortunately, your boy Mickey didn't know that Jonathan Majors is a real-life villain. Yikes. Now here's where things get a little weird. Guardians 3 feels like another exit. I know the new Guardians are established, but that doesn't feel like a lead-up, it reads more as a cap to the Guardians story. You know, their legacy living on after they disband, in stories that we, the audience, can come up with on our own. I'm not looking up if we'll see these characters in Doomsday or ever again, cause I don't really care, but if they do, then great? Marvel's is another chess piece shindig. Monica is kicking it with Beastie Boy while Carol and Kamala are together on Earth, whereas Deadpool and Wolverine feels like another ending. Doesn't it? Or is it just me? It feels like this is a send-off to the Fox characters, including Wolverine, right? Like, I get Deadpool is staying, but like this specific version of Wolverine is from a world where the X-Men are dead. So when we see the X-Men in Doomsday, I'm assuming they're gonna have a different Wolverine, right? Well then why send off this one? Just so we can have a movie with Deadpool? I mean, is it really worth it? I can go on a whole rant about this movie, which I don't really like all that much, by the way, but that's not what this video is about, so let's move on with our lives. Captain America is... It's hard to say, because Sam begins and ends this movie at the exact same point. This movie kind of breaks my brain, because I don't know what the point was. A Hulk sequel? Like all these years later? Introducing the new Falcon? Boy, nobody cares about him. Don't make me mad. I oughta... In terms of overarching narrative, this is a low point in the saga because it serves the same function as wisdom teeth. Either you watched Wingman and the Robo Boy, which puts Sam in the exact position he ends this movie in, or you didn't, and the last time you saw Sam he was becoming Captain America. Like, there's nothing new and nothing gained here, but I'm getting off topic again. Thunderbolts. Okay, we're back on track. This is the closest thing we get to an Avengers movie, and takes the most strides in establishing a new team based on already introduced characters. Great. Fantastic Four, another introductory movie. I'll leave my review on the cutting room floor for now. As it stands, let's just say, it's fine. Spider-Man. I don't know, I haven't seen it. And you're probably wondering, why didn't you just wait a week so you could include this? Well... Shut up! That brings us to Doomsday. And side note, I'm assuming some of the setup is buried in Marvel's TV shows, and I'm gonna go ahead and call that a tactical error. What do you mean I have to pay a subscription fee to see everybody's favorite hero, Echo? What do you... Wait. With ads? From a bird's eye retrospective, the multiverse saga is muddled. I don't think every movie needs to be connected. I like Doc Strange Reloaded, but that's because I think Sam Raimi is...
so good.
But we don't see the build-up that we did in the Infinity Saga. The most linked movies are Black Widow and Thunderbolts, and they're at the beginning and end of the saga. Outside of these two, everyone's kinda doing their own thing. So in returning to our structure, that means we're starting on shaky ground. More legwork has to be done to establish stakes than payoff on said establishing. By the time we saw Thanos throw it back in Infinity War, we knew what he wanted, which was the Chaos Emeralds. We didn't know why, but we knew he wanted them. We also knew about his relationship with Gamora and Nebula, which Infinity War explicitly capitalized upon. We also knew where our heroes stood with one another due to Civil War. Whereas with Doomsday, what do we know? I don't think anyone has referenced Doctor Doom at all outside of a chair cameo and post-credits scene. He has no relationship with any of our heroes up to this point. We don't know what he wants or why he wants it, and we don't know where our heroes stand other than the Thunderbolts referencing that Sam is suing Bucky and company. Shang-Chi has been crying in the corner for 5 years. So Doomsday is gonna have to cram all that legwork into one movie, which is a Herculean task even for a skilled writer. And yes, I know and have read the comic book that Doomsday and Secret Wars is based upon, but the general audience doesn't, nor should any audience be expected to come in with prior knowledge from different universes. You get what I'm getting at, right? Doomsday is fighting an uphill battle because it essentially has to do more than Infinity War. Way more. The multiverse saga has been all exposition, no rising action. At least theatrically. So whereas Infinity War could be a comfortable Act 3, Doomsday has to be Act 3 and 2. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie has lightning fast pacing because of just how much ground it has to cover. Which brings me to the second reason for this precarious situation Disney has found itself in. And to explain that situation, we're going to have to wind the clock back a cool 19 years. In 2007, Marvel Comics released the storyline One More Day, a story in which Peter Parker, after having revealed his identity to the world in the Civil War storyline, is targeted by the Kingpin for assassination. In a hilarious comedy twist though, Aunt May is the one who gets shot. Peter spends the rest of the comic trying to get May healed, going to various people to see if they can use science or magic to save his old, very old, ancient aunt. But unfortunately, nobody in the Marvel universe is strong or smart enough to cure a gunshot wound. So, in a desperate act, Peter Parker makes a deal with the demon Mephisto to save his aunt. In exchange for saving May, who, I can't stress this enough, has one foot in the grave and the other foot in another grave, Peter sacrifices his marriage with Mary Jane, erasing 20 years of continuity. Now the reason for this is because Marvel editorial felt that Spider-Man needed to be fresh. Nobody wants to read a story about a superhero who's married. Peter Parker needs to be down in the dumps, eating diapers out of a dumpster and doing kids' birthday parties to make rent. The showrunners at Marvel made this change for a specific reason. A lack of confidence. A lack of faith that their audience could grow with the character of Peter Parker. A lack of belief that their writers could continue in this paradigm of married life while still keeping it fresh and hip. A desire not to evolve with what is, but to go back to what was. To retread the annals of the past, you get it. Captain America is coming back not because the story demands it, but because the mouse does. The X-Men are coming back not because they were built up. In fact, if anything, they were built down by Deadpool and Wolverine. But the mouse hungers for your currency. The mouse has wares, if you have coin. Are we really going to get another send-off for Mr. Rogers? Are we going to see Professor X die a 4th time? 5th if you count this scene from Back to the Future. What is the purpose? Well, if we return to the 3-act structure, the purpose is to substitute Act 2. The purpose is to say, hey, we know we didn't set any of this up, but just indulge in your nostalgia. Remember Cyclops?
Spandex.
That was crazy when he got exploded, right? Remember when Mystique was naked? That was pretty cool, huh? Oh! Part of the reason I was so excited for the MCU is because I knew that, fundamentally, it could not follow in the footsteps of the comics. You cannot write Tom Holland Spider-Man movies in perpetuity. He will get old, and I will defeat him once and for all. So by their nature, the movies had to be conclusive. Stories had to have a beginning, middle, and end. One major turnoff that eventually drove me away from the big two was that endless cycle of never-ending stagnancy. 40 years ago, Peter Parker was a down-on-his-luck 20-something-year-old in New York, balancing being Spider-Man with being a filthy human. And currently, I think he just got back from space, and he's back in New York, balancing being Spider-Man with being a filthy human. The stories from DC and Marvel are like rubber bands. You can stretch them, sometimes really far, but they always snap back into the same position. Doomsday is that snap. It's all your old faves coming back, because we're scared to let them go. And look, if that greases your goose, fantastic.
Say that again?
I'm happy for you, and I'm genuinely jealous. But I can't just take a story at face value. Asking me to do that is like asking me not to think. And granted, this think piece is intentionally preemptive. I hope I roll up to the theater, watch Doomsday, and come out a believer. I hope I come back to this video and think, wow, I guess I was stupid. I guess I was just a worthless, disgusting, useless, but either way, love it or hate it, I wanted to elaborate upon my thoughts and use this as a time capsule. So if this movie is as I think it'll be, I can be like, well, I'm the smartest man alive.
I'm the smartest man alive. Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four.
And if it's not, then I get to analyze where I was wrong and how the movie overcame the steep climb it had to take to the top. I don't know. To some people, that's a cynical, life-draining way of approaching media. I can understand the inclination to just turn my brain off, so to speak, and enjoy. But to me, analysis like this isn't just worth it, it's also fun. That's all for this one. Like and subscribe because I've got more essays, rewrites, and whatnot in the works. And until the next one, cheers.